You did not find this text by chance. This text found you. And that's not a coincidence. There's something quietly blocking your life. And the scariest part, it's hidden where you think you're doing well. In the next few minutes, you'll discover the invisible mistake that's been stalling your energy, your relationships, and your prosperity, even when you're trying everything and more. I'm going to reveal to you the vibrational code left by Thoth that explains why some people flow with life and others get lost trying. But first, answer this. Have you ever felt like life is trying to show you something, but you just can't figure out what it is? That's the sign. And whoever ignores this sign repeats cycles for years. If you stay until the end, you'll understand the final energetic shift that separates those who just try from those who finally live what's rightfully theirs. But if you leave early, you'll miss the part where everything comes together. So are you going to go on with your life without understanding why nothing flows? Or will you finally listen to what's been trying to reach you for much longer than you think? What is below is like what is above, and what is above is like what is below to accomplish the miracles of one single thing. This is the part almost no one likes to hear. But that's exactly why it needs to be said. The truth is, you might be stuck in an invisible cycle believing you're doing everything right. You wake up early, repeat positive affirmations, meditate, express gratitude, listen to prosperity audios, practice creative visualization, and still life feels stuck. Nothing really flows. It's like you're swimming but not getting anywhere. And this isn't because of a lack of effort, quite the opposite. Many people are overwhelmed with spiritual practices, visualizations, techniques, books, and information. They search so much, do so much, try so hard, and still feel frustrated. Why? Because they're trapped in an invisible lie. A lie that was sold in pretty packages with easy promises and catchy phrases. The idea that just thinking positively is enough to change everything. The illusion that the mind alone creates reality, as if imagining a prosperous life would magically make it appear. But in the realm we live in, that's not enough, at least not in the way it's often told. You've probably heard someone say you create your reality with your thoughts. And yes, there's truth in that, but it's only part of the equation. A part that on its own doesn't work. And that's where the danger lies, because when you believe all it takes is thinking and everything will happen, you start thinking the problem is you. That you're not thinking the right way, that your mind is broken, that your energy field is blocked. And then comes guilt, frustration, the feeling that the universe responds to everyone but you. But the truth is different. Thought is the architect. It draws the blueprint. But the builder is action. Hermes Trismegistus once said, "The mind is the builder, but matter responds to action." That means you can create the most perfect plans in your mind, but if there's no movement, nothing comes off the page. It's like imagining a house and never laying a single brick. Here in the material world, things have density. They need energy, structure, flow. And that energy comes from practice. It comes from the body in motion, from intention turned into action. True spirituality is not an escape from the physical world. It's the conscious integration between the invisible and the visible, between what you feel and what you do with it. That's why so many people are overloaded with information and at the same time paralyzed. They're living in a mental world believing the universe will hand everything to them on a silver platter. And when that doesn't happen, they go into crisis. They think they're being punished, forgotten, blocked. But the reality is that a crucial step is missing, a step that is almost always ignored. This is the point where many journeys stall, and that's exactly why you need to understand what comes next. Because it's not enough to know that thought has power. Everyone's heard that by now. What no one explains is why thought alone doesn't bring transformation. Not in this realm. Not at this level of consciousness. Not while you stay stuck in one of the greatest spiritual sabotagers of all. The excess of theory without practice. There's a huge difference between knowing and living. And while that difference isn't understood, the feeling of blockage will remain. The mind knows what it wants, but the body keeps repeating the old pattern. The intention is new, but the behavior is old. The frequency you're putting out is split, fragmented. And when your vibration is fragmented, the reality you attract is too. You start manifesting things halfway. Opportunities that almost work out, doors that almost open, results that almost show up. And that's more frustrating than outright failure because you feel like you're close. You feel like you're on the right path, but something always seems to pull you back. This formula has 4 components, and the most overlooked one is exactly what separates those who thrive from those who just study. Because there's a huge difference between someone who understands a concept and someone who lives it. And what makes that difference isn't how much you know, but how much you truly vibrate what you claim to believe in. Vibration isn't a pretty quote on a social media post. Vibration isn't a one-off thought. Vibration is repetition. It's behavior. It's energetic consistency translated into concrete actions. There's no point in saying you believe in abundance if your whole body, your posture, your tone of voice, your decisions, and your habits scream scarcity. And here's the point. Your vibration isn't formed by what you think once in a while. It's shaped by the frequency you maintain day after day, even without realizing it. It's in how you wake up, what you say when no one's around, what you tolerate, what you repeat. It's the sum of micro decisions you don't even consider important, but the universe hears them loud and clear. You might have been doing positive affirmations for months. You might be listening to high-frequency audios, visualizing your dream home, your ideal body, the perfect relationship. But if for the rest of the day you act as if you're still stuck in the same old version of yourself, then that's the version that's still vibrating. And the universe, which responds to energetic coherence, simply gives you back what you truly are, not what you say you want. This is the root of what no one told you about personal vibration. Vibration is a compound. It's not a fleeting emotion or an isolated thought. It's a living equation, a silent sum that includes what you feel, what you think, what you say, and most importantly, what you do. And if that equation is misaligned, the result will always be the same: stagnation. Now think with me. If nature thrives toward growth, what happens to what doesn't move? It dies. It rots. It weakens. It's swallowed by time. A seed only becomes a tree because it breaks through the shell, sends down roots, searches for water, faces the darkness of the earth, pushes the soil, and rises toward the light. A river isn't born ready. It carves its path through constant movement. And everything in nature follows this rhythm: birth, growth, expansion. Nothing stays still. Everything vibrates. Everything pulses. Everything moves. That's why if your life feels stuck, the question isn't, "What's wrong with me?" but rather, "What inside me stopped moving?" That's the question that begins to change everything. Because when you understand that your vibration is movement, not just intention, you begin to notice patterns that used to go unnoticed. You start realizing that your repeated choices are full of energetic meaning, that your daily behavior is a kind of silent prayer. You're constantly affirming something to the universe, and it hears that. Not the words from your mouth, but the vibrations from your body in motion. In Hermetic tradition, this is taught as the purification of the 4 internal elements: fire, water, air, and earth. Action, emotion, thought, spiritual will. When these 4 elements are out of alignment, what you manifest is noise, chaos, vibrational contradiction. But when they begin to align, what emerges is the state of coherence. And in that state, reality responds. The alchemical being, the truly awakened one, is not the one who knows a lot. It's the one who vibrates in coherence with what they want to create. It's the one who thinks with clarity, feels with depth, speaks with truth, and acts with intention. That's true power. Because prosperity is not a reward, it's a reflection. And if you're still not seeing that reflection in your life, then it's because one of your elements is out of alignment. And that's exactly where the next point lies, because these four elements, these forces that shape your vibration, are organized within a formula, a precise structure that when ignored blocks everything, but when understood unlocks a whole new level of creation. And this is where we begin to open the first window of this structure. And it couldn't be any other way. The first point of rupture, the first catalyst for real transformation, is action. But don't get it twisted. Action in this context is not just doing for the sake of doing. It's not about staying busy all the time or filling your schedule believing that will change your vibration. The world is already full of people who run around all day without getting anywhere. They're exhausted, drained, frustrated, but they keep moving in circles as if speed could make up for lack of direction. And that's the point. Wrong, aimless, blind, impulsive action is just as harmful as inertia, maybe even more. Because when you act without awareness, you reinforce the patterns you want to break. It's like every move you make is feeding the very system you're trying to escape. You feel productive, feel like you're doing something, but inside nothing is truly moving forward. The soul remains stagnant. And this is one of the biggest spiritual traps of our time. Empty activism, spiritual busyness, compulsive doing, an overload of tasks that drains your energy without producing any real internal alignment. You might be working 12 hours a day. You might be involved in 1,000 projects. You might even be helping others all the time. But if at the end of the day you feel drained, lost, and without purpose, then your action is disconnected from your truth. And in that case, what you're calling productivity is really escape. Escape from yourself. And here comes one of the most powerful teachings of Hermeticism. Everything moves, everything vibrates, everything follows a rhythm. But what doesn't evolve dissolves. Thoth said, "The entire universe is movement with direction." It's not enough to move. You need to move in tune with a purpose. That's what separates flow from dispersion. The universe doesn't respond to the amount of effort. It responds to the quality of alignment. That's why so many people are busy but empty. They work, hustle, study, chase, and still nothing blooms because it's not enough to act. You have to act in the right place, at the right frequency, with the right intention. Otherwise, you're just crystallizing what already exists, feeding the same pattern, and your life energy, instead of creating, starts to erode. Most people are acting out of fear, out of pressure, out of the need to prove themselves. And the problem with that is the body moves, but the soul doesn't follow. It's like rowing a boat with no compass in the middle of the ocean. You might feel like you're putting in the effort, but you have no idea where you're going. And over time, that effort turns into exhaustion, and the exhaustion turns into frustration. This is where a nearly forgotten concept comes in. Inspired action. Inspired action is not agitation. It's not rushing. It's not that sudden urge to do 1,000 things at once. Inspired action is subtle, quiet. It comes from a space that can't be accessed in a hurry. It doesn't come from anxiety. It doesn't come from the ego. It doesn't come from the need to fix something outside of yourself. Inspired action comes from within, from a quieter place, a place almost no one visits because it's always being drowned out by the noise of the mind. Have you ever had that feeling of knowing what to do without having thought about it logically? A calm impulse, a sudden clarity, something like, "This is the way." No logic, no explanation, no justification, just an inner certainty guiding you. That is inspired action. But for it to show up, you have to make space. And that space doesn't open when you're addicted to doing just for the sake of doing. It opens when you stop, when you quiet the noise, when you stop trying to solve everything with your mind and start listening to the part of you that already knows. The part that's always known, but that's been silenced by years of conditioning, fear, and hurry. In Hermeticism, Thoth called this part the Ka, the higher self, the unchanging essence. That part of you directly connected to the intelligence of the all. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue with the mind. It simply observes, waits, and when you finally slow down, it speaks. But it speaks without words. It speaks with direction, with alignment, with a sense of truth felt throughout your entire body. And here we enter one of the most powerful yet least understood laws, the law of polarity. It says everything has two poles, two extremes, chaos and clarity, blind impulse and conscious direction. When you quiet the negative extreme, you don't eliminate movement. You activate the other pole. You ignite what the ancients called the divine spark. And that spark knows exactly what needs to be done. From this point on, you no longer act out of desperation. You act with presence. And when you act with presence, time seems to slow down. Coincidences increase, decisions flow, opportunities appear. Because now your vibration is no longer reactive, it's creative. The universe doesn't demand blind effort. It responds to vibrational strategy. And this strategy isn't something you learn from pre-made formulas. It reveals itself when you align intention with silence, desire with presence, and most importantly, when you have the courage to wait until movement comes from the soul, not from the rush to fix everything. Inspired action might seem small on the outside, but it carries immense power within. Because it's not contaminated by doubt. It doesn't come from insecurity, it comes from the source. And everything that comes from the source transforms. That's why most people act all the time and still get nowhere. Because they're following emotional impulses, not inner wisdom. They're reacting, not creating. They're trying to escape pain, not align with purpose. And that's exactly why they can't find the right path, because they're looking outside for something that can only be revealed within. But to access this compass, you need to understand the invisible structure that governs your vibration. And it exists. It's not an abstract idea nor a vague concept thrown into the wind. It's precise. It's practical. And the name of this structure is CEAA. 4 letters, 4 keys, 4 fields that determine everything you attract, everything you manifest, everything you experience. Beliefs, convictions, emotions, communication, affirmation, and action. This is the formula that organizes your frequency. It's as if your reality were a song and each of these pillars was an instrument playing at the same time. If one is out of tune, the song loses its rhythm. But when all are aligned, the symphony vibrates with such coherence that the entire universe responds. Let's take it step by step. Everything starts with your beliefs because they define the limits of your perception. They tell you what you can and cannot do, what's possible or impossible, what you deserve or don't deserve. And the most dangerous part is that you didn't choose most of these beliefs. They were placed there by family, by school, by society, by repetition. And if you don't review these internal structures, you end up living a life that isn't even yours. A life programmed by stories you never questioned. But beliefs alone don't vibrate. They need emotion to gain power. Emotions are the fuel of your energetic field, and this isn't about avoiding difficult emotions, but about learning to feel without being consumed. The right emotion, when channeled consciously, accelerates your vibration. The wrong emotion, when repressed or dramatized, distorts everything. Fear, guilt, anger. If they're not acknowledged, they paralyze you. But joy, peace, and true passion for what you do are like quantum accelerators of your creation. But emotion and belief can't survive in a vacuum. They need to be expressed, and that happens through your communication. The way you speak to the world, how you position yourself, what you say, how you say it, and most importantly, what you say when no one is listening. Because the most powerful communication is the one you have with yourself. Your inner dialogue shapes your identity, and your identity determines your destiny. And then we arrive at action, the point where everything materializes. Not blind action as we've seen, but aligned action. The kind that turns everything you believe, feel, and express into movement. The right action is the result of alignment. It doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. Now put it all together. Beliefs, emotions, communication, action. CEAA. This is the formula. This is what creates your real vibration. Not what you say you want, but what you vibrate in each of these 4 layers. And the truth is harsh. If one of them is out of alignment, the result gets stuck because the universe responds to the whole, to coherence, not to isolated intention. That's why so many people think positively but still live negatively. Because working on just one part isn't enough. It doesn't help to have empowering beliefs but feed destructive emotions. It doesn't help to speak well but act out of fear. It doesn't help to take action while vibrating scarcity deep down. CEAA is not theory. It's practice. It's diagnosis. It's a mirror. It shows with precision where the misalignment is. And more than that, it shows how to fix it. And this isn't new. In Hermetic tradition, the 4 elements already reflected this exact structure. Fire, the beliefs, the original spark, the starting point of everything. Water, the emotions, the sensitive field that moves energy. Air, the communication, the breath that connects and transmits. Earth, the action, the matter where everything takes form. When Thoth said that the human being is a star in the making, he was talking about this internal alignment. When the 4 elements harmonize, something within you awakens, something that's always been there but now begins to vibrate with power. CEAA is that living alchemy, a modern map for ancient wisdom. And when you apply it in practice, you start to see real changes. Not because the outer world changed, but because you began to vibrate with coherence, wholeness, power. But even with all these pillars activated, there's a hidden factor that, if ignored, makes everything fall apart. It's what connects all the elements, gives direction to movement and meaning to effort. It's the invisible thread that stitches CEAA into something living, pulsing, magnetic. And without it, the whole system collapses. This factor is purpose. The most common mistake among spiritual seekers isn't in their intention. It's in the absence of a clear why. Many do everything. They reprogram their beliefs, take care of their vibration, act with focus and discipline. But even so, life doesn't blossom. Why? Because they're moving without a gravitational center, without a core that organizes all movement around something meaningful. Without a real purpose, everything becomes effort without direction. You might be busy, productive, even aligned in small parts, but deep down something still feels empty. And that emptiness is the result of the disconnection between doing and why. Thoth once said, "A soul without direction is like a candle without a flame. It exists, but it doesn't shine. It's present, but it doesn't transform." And this is where Hermeticism brings a powerful teaching. Purpose is not a title, not a role, not a sacred mission that descends from the heavens as a divine revelation. Purpose is telos, a higher intention, a force that pulls everything forward, a clarity that guides even in the dark. And contrary to what many think, purpose doesn't need to be grand. It doesn't need to involve crowds, a stage, recognition. Sometimes it's simple. So simple it seems small until you realize the impact it has. I want to break the cycle of scarcity I learned from my family. I want to be more present in my children's lives. I want to live a life with more calm, with more truth, with more peace. These are purposes just as powerful as any spiritual mission. Because purpose is not about appearance. It's about coherence. It's about having a clear direction that supports your decisions, choices, and actions. Even when the world around you tries to pull you off track, when you have a purpose, it becomes a filter, an internal code that guides your yes and your no. It reduces noise, diminishes doubt, calms the mind because now you have a center, a north, And everything begins to reorganize around that. And it's precisely the simplicity of purpose that reveals the greatest hidden power of creation. The truth is, you don't need to have all the answers. You just need to know where you're going. When purpose is alive within you, the pieces fall into place. The right doors open, the right people show up, and you stop forcing and start flowing. The mantra isn't just a mental repetition. It's a silent, energetic ritual, a vibration that, when anchored daily, reconfigures your reality from the inside out. Because when you repeat your purpose every day with intention, you're not just reminding your brain, you're telling the universe who you are and where you're going. That activates an invisible force. Your frequency begins to emit cleaner, more coherent signals. Your choices become clearer. Your emotions stop sabotaging you. Even your habits start to follow the new vibrational route. It's like the inner chaos begins to organize itself because now there's a center radiating meaning. The ancients called this the solar mantra, and there's nothing superstitious about it. They knew that anything repeated with intention shapes time, shapes the body, shapes the field, shapes matter. So say your purpose out loud every day, even if it seems simple, even if no one hears it. Because what matters isn't the volume of the voice, but the frequency it activates within you. And every time you say it, you strengthen the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. Use that purpose as a decision-making tool. Before every choice, ask, does this move me closer to or farther from my purpose? That single question can save you years of detours. Because when you don't know where you're going, any path seems fine. But when the purpose is clear, the body knows when it's off course. And it tells you through anxiety, through fatigue, through resistance. You begin to recognize misalignment not as an obstacle, but as a sign, a reminder to adjust your direction. And when everything is aligned, there is one final adjustment that makes prosperity inevitable. That final adjustment is the conscious integration of all the elements. It's when you understand that prosperity isn't magic. It's not luck. It's not leftover karma. It's vibrational mathematics. It's when everything within you is singing the same song. It's when your beliefs, emotions, words, and actions dance around a steady purpose like planets around an inner sun. Aligned vibration plus inspired action plus defined purpose equals real transformation. This is the living equation, a spiritual formula that Thoth called the architecture of destiny. Because when your field is coherent, life doesn't push you around anymore. You take the helm. You become a conscious creator. And if you try and it still doesn't work, go back and look again at the pillars. Anytime something gets stuck, it's because one of them is still out of tune. Maybe a hidden belief, a sabotaging emotion, an unclear message, an action with no energy, or a purpose that's still just in the mind, not in the heart. Now you know how to correct it. Now you have the key to the cycle of creation that can finally start to turn. And when it turns with truth, it doesn't stop anymore. Because there's nothing more powerful than a human being vibrating in coherence with their spirit. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be whole.